A collector shows you a photograph on his phone. It's a receipt. 2016. A steel Rolex Daytona, reference 116500LN, ceramic bezel. Purchased at authorized dealer price, $12,400. He's smiling in a way that tells you the story before he says a word. That same watch peaked on the grey market in 2022 at $42,000. He didn't sell it. He wears it every day. It's on his wrist right now. He's not telling you this to brag about the money. He's telling you because he almost didn't buy it. He stood in the dealer's showroom in 2016 looking at a watch that had been sitting in the display case for months, because nobody wanted it, and he almost walked out empty-handed. He didn't. You are now going to understand exactly why that happened, what it looked like before it happened, and how to find the next one before the market does. Let's go back to 2015. The watch market in 2015 is not the watch market of 2021. It is quieter, more rational. Instagram exists, but the watch community on it is small. YouTube watch content is embryonic. The secondary market exists, but the price premiums on most references are moderate. An authorized dealer relationship is helpful, but not mandatory for most steel sports watches. You can walk into a Rolex dealer and buy a Submariner without a 2-year friendship and a purchase history that proves your loyalty. The Patek Philippe Nautilus 5711 retails for approximately $27,000. Grey market premium, maybe 15% above retail, 15%. On a Patek Nautilus, in 2021 the grey market price peaks at $150,000. That is not a typo. A watch you could have bought at authorized retail in 2015 for $27,000 was trading 6 years later for more than 5 times that number. The AP Royal Oak reference 15202. The Jumbo. The original Gerald Genter design, the watch that started the luxury sports watch category in 1972, retails in 2015 for around $20,000. By 2022, it is trading at $90,000 on the secondary market. The Rolex GMT Master 2 reference 16710 BLNR, the Batman, with the black and blue ceramic bezel, launches in 2013 and sits in dealer cases through most of the mid-2010s because the market finds the color combination unusual. Retail, $8,500. By 2021, it is trading at $22,000. These are not outliers. This is a pattern. Here is why it happened. Not the simple version, the actual mechanics. 3 things converged between 2017 and 2021 that the watch market had never experienced simultaneously. First, social media discovered watches. Specifically, Instagram and YouTube created a new category of watch enthusiast, younger, more numerous, more globally distributed than the traditional collector base. These new buyers didn't learn watches through dealers or auction houses. They learned through content, and content, by its nature, concentrates attention on the same references. The Nautilus, the Royal Oak, the steel Daytona. When millions of people are educated about the same watches at the same time, demand concentrates. Supply doesn't move. Second, the investment mindset entered the conversation. When Rolex prices started rising visibly in 2017 and 2018, watches stopped being just objects people loved and started being assets people tracked. This changed buyer behavior fundamentally. People who had never collected watches started buying specific references because they expected appreciation. This created demand that had nothing to do with loving watches and everything to do with parking money in something tangible. Third, the pandemic, 2020 to 2022. Travel stopped, restaurants closed, the experiential economy collapsed overnight. People with disposable income and nowhere to spend it bought things, watches, art, sneakers, wine. Any physical category with scarcity and heritage characteristics went irrational. The watch market didn't just rise, it launched. Steel Patek at $150,000, Steel Royal Oak at $90,000, Rolex sports references at 2 to 3 times retail. The numbers were real, the transactions were real, and then the market corrected. Starting in mid-2022 and continuing through 2023, grey market prices on most major references fell significantly. The Nautilus 5711, discontinued by Patek in 2021, which had briefly scented even higher, came back down to earth. The Batman settled. The Royal Oak pulled back. The people who bought at peak 2021 prices and expected continued appreciation watched their investment lose 30 to 40% of its grey market value in 18 months. This is the part of the story that matters more than the rise, because what the correction revealed was which watches had real value and which watches had borrowed it from the moment. The references that held best through the correction were the ones with genuine scarcity, genuine heritage, and genuine demand from people who actually wanted to wear them. The references that collapsed hardest were the ones bought purely as financial instruments by people who had no emotional attachment to what they owned. The correction was not a crash, it was a filter, and it left behind exactly the information you need to find what's next. Here is the framework, 4 criteria. Every watch that exploded in the 2017 to 2022 period satisfied most of these before the market found it. 1. Genuine production scarcity, not manufactured scarcity. Brands artificially limiting supply to inflate demand. Actual structural limitation. Small workshops, genuinely complicated manufacture, annual production in the hundreds rather than thousands. When demand outpaces real supply, prices move. When it's manufactured scarcity, the brand controls the ceiling. 2. Strong heritage that hasn't been fully priced in yet. The market is not efficient at valuing history. A watch with a documented technical innovation, a famous original owner, a connection to a meaningful moment in time. These things add value that takes years to be properly reflected in price. 3. Currently boring to the mainstream. The Nautilus was boring in 2012. The Royal Oak was boring in 2010. Boring means the market hasn't noticed. Boring means the price hasn't moved yet. Boring is where you want to be. 4. The right brand trajectory. A brand that is either growing in prestige, reducing production, or being increasingly recognized outside its traditional audience. All 3 create upward price pressure over time. So, what satisfies this framework? Right now, Grand Seiko, specifically the spring drive references, the SBGA 211 Snowflake, the seasonal dial series, the limited masterpiece collection pieces. Grand Seiko produces approximately 50,000 to 60,000 watches per year across all references. For context, Rolex produces around 800,000. Grand Seiko's spring drive movement is, by any objective measure, one of the most technically sophisticated in the world. A tri-synchro regulator that uses magnetic braking to achieve plus or minus 1 second per day accuracy using a mechanical mainspring, no battery. No quartz crystal, just physics, applied at a level nobody else has managed. The dials are hand-finished in techniques tied to Japanese craft traditions, shizukuishi artisans working on snowflake textures and seasonal gradients that cannot be replicated by machine. The cases are finished using a combination of zaratsu polishing and texture work that rivals anything Patek applies to a movement. And yet, a grand Seiko spring drive, with extraordinary finishing retails for $6,000 to $12,000 depending on the reference. The equivalent level of craft from a Swiss brand costs 3 to 4 times that. The market has not fully processed this yet. The watch community knows, the mainstream doesn't. That gap is what 2015 looked like. A Lange and Söhne entry references. The Saxon manufacturer in Glashütte, Germany produces around 5,000 watches per year. 5,000. Patek produces around 60,000. Rolex produces 800,000. Lange's movements are built entirely in-house, finished to a standard that is documented and demonstrable. Outsized date complications, three-quarter plates, solid gold chaitons, hand-engraved balance cocks. The Saxonia thin retails for approximately $18,000. It is built to a standard that makes a $25,000 Rolex look mass-produced, which it is. Lange's profile outside the collector community is still surprisingly limited. The brand does not advertise aggressively. It does not pursue celebrity placements. It does not court social media. This is either a strategic choice or a cultural one. Either way, it means the price has not caught up to the quality. In 10 years, people will show photographs of Lange receipts from 2025, the way they show Daytona receipts from 2016. Independent watchmakers, specifically the next tier below Söhne. F.P. Söhne is already known. His prices already reflect that knowledge, but the watchmakers below him in public recognition. Kari Voutilainen, Laurent Ferrier, Rexhepi of Akrivia. They produce at volumes of 50 to 150 pieces per year at a technical standard that genuinely rivals the Grandes Maisons, and are currently accessible at prices that will seem extraordinary in retrospect. Voutilainen produces roughly 50 watches annually. When production is that limited and quality is that high, the question is not if the price moves. The question is when. One warning, and it is important. None of this is investment advice. The watch market is not the stock market. It has no regulatory framework. It has no liquidity guarantee. A watch that satisfies every criterion above can still fail to appreciate if the market simply doesn't notice it. If the brand makes a strategic error, if a production decision changes the scarcity picture, or if the broader economic environment turns against discretionary luxury spending. The people who bought correctly in 2015 bought watches they genuinely loved, watches they would have been happy wearing regardless of what happened to the price. That is not a coincidence. That is the only reliable version of this thesis. Buy what you love. Understand why it's undervalued. Be patient. The rest tends to follow. Somewhere right now, a 25-year-old is looking at a grand Seiko snowflake on Chrono 24. She thinks it's beautiful. She's not sure if it's serious enough. She's comparing it to a steel submariner and wondering if the Rolex is the smarter purchase. She will make a decision. In 10 years, one of those decisions will have a receipt she shows people. Only one of those decisions still has availability at retail. Only one of those decisions is the kind of thing you show people the photograph of and smile before you say a word. If you're holding a receipt right now that aged well, or one that didn't, share it below. And if you want to be in the room for the next conversation before the market has it, you know what to do. Subscribe. The next one is already out there.